To all my tiny tots, little ones, big kids, tweens, teens, everyone in between, CG slopes and adults. Today, I think we're going to end up doing chapter 75 through... I'm going to try and get through at least 78, if not 80. That's anywhere from 3 to 5 chapters. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Chapter 75, CG Ghostblade, Little Ghost Boo. In the beginning, they're in the overworld. In the second part, they will be in the spirit realm. They have the ability to change their sizes now that they are no longer alive, which is why Ghost Boo appears as a young child. Rambo will speak like this, so his text will be crossed out, or striked through. In the overworld, while Techno will speak normally, I want to think of it as Rambo speaking Enderman, as computer or iPad are very limited in actual Enderman text. So, yeah. Also, if you have followed the events of the DSMP, then you'll remember Ghost Burn Reviver. I tried to contribute this to certain characters. When it comes to Techno's character, Ghostblade is like his bad memories, and Tech Ghost is his good memories. Rambo will also be using Z-Void pronouns as a personal headcanon, and you will also notice that Ghost in both parts of Techno's name are crossed through. That is because I do not believe he was ever confirmed as all of his canon lives were lost. So, I like to think of it as, it was like an accidental death that nobody ever really knew about, which we all know that's a lie because, yeah. Anyways, I hope you'll enjoy, and the content warning for this story is dead characters, flashbacks, they're non-canon, panicked little amnesia around trauma. It was a generally Great start. It was a generally cloudy day when Ghostblade wandered around Snowchester out of pure boredom. He had nothing better to do with his time. His dogs and garden were well taken care of. His armor and weapons were hung up and polished in his secret base. His final book was written and placed on his shelf. His tasks were complete. He thought it was rather odd how everything he could think of was focused around his love of anarchy and destruction. He wondered if there had ever been times when he was happy, if he had ever had a loving family. His strolling pace slowed as he heard gentle whimpers somewhere nearby, almost inaudible due to the snow itself and the soft whimpers. That shouldn't be. Hello, Ghostblade called out in the blank whiteness around him. He couldn't even see the stumps of the trees. Everything was covered in foots of snow. He received no response. He sighed and worked his way off the generally straight and direct path he had taken. He walked further and further into the trees until he stopped. A house stood out against the white of the snow, its charred remains standing just barely, and looking out about ready to topple over at any second. He slowly crept up to it. This house looked familiar somehow. He searched his memories, what was left of them anyways, and pulled out a few moments where he had been there, a little boy named Michael and his parents, a ram hybrid and an Enderman hybrid. The house seemed vacant now, but Ghostblade continued on, working his way around the house, trying to find a way in that didn't involve damaging the already fragile framework. Eventually he found a way inside and began looking around. Everything was just as he remembered it, just more, burned. Ghostblade began wondering how everything had gone down, how long it had been since he visited, when another soft whimper pulled him out of his thoughts. "Hello?" he called out again. The sound bounced off the remaining walls and sprang back into his ears. He winced and shook his head, trying to clear his mind so he could focus. He stood still and listened. Then he heard it again, the quiet whimper. He made his way through former doorways and down the still intact ladder to the basement, where he found the Enderman hybrid. No? Ghostboo whimpered out, knees pulled up tightly to his ear chest. A book with a photograph on the cover was clutched tightly in Void's hands. Ghostblade scoured his mind for answers. Who was the hybrid sitting before him, and what had Z just called him? Listen, I don't know who you're looking for, kid, but I'm Ghostblade, and you are, Ghostblade answered. Ghostboo answered. Well, listen, kid. I don't think you're alive anymore, so how about we head back to my place and, we'll call your parents. Sound good? Ghostblade asked. Ghostboo shook your head and crossed Void's arms. Ghostblade sighed. Fine, do it the hard way. He pulled the compass out of his pocket and flipped it open. He adjusted the arrows a bit, then grabbed the Ender hybrid's wrist before they were whisked away. They landed with a gentle thud on Ghostblade's couch. Unluckily for Ghostblade, Ghostboo landed on top of him, knocking all the air from his lungs. They were now within the spirit realm. Ghostboo moved off a blade and landed on the floor with a soft thud. Tech Ghost appeared in the room, suddenly, eyes wide with wonder. What's Ramboo doing here? Tech Ghost demanded. Ramboo? Ghostblade answered. Yeah, Ramboo, your brother from the Overrealm. Wow, can't talk today. Your brother from the Overrealm? Tech Ghost responded. Memories flashed behind his eyes, and suddenly it clicked. Ramboo was one of Michael's fathers. Ramboo was his younger brother. He had been slain by Sam. Why hadn't he been able to remember? Blade looked down at the young boy before him. He picked the boy up and clutched him close to his chest. I'm sorry, Boo. Blade murmured. Tech disappeared as fast as he had appeared, leaving the two to stand in silence. Ghostboo snuggled into the older's chest, basking in his warmth. It's okay, he slurred sleepily. It's alright, Bubba, you can sleep. I'll protect you forever and always, Ghostblade answers. A smile crossing his features as he quietly hums under his breath. He sways from side to side, continuing to hum quietly. Ghostboo slowly falls asleep, barely able to keep his eyes open, as Void fights to keep them open for just a moment longer, not wanting to fall asleep just yet. It's alright, Blade reassures him again. Ghostboo gives into the exhaustion of Zir. Oh, I just misgendered the sibling. Okay, there. Ghostboo gives into the exhaustion of Zir body and falls into a deep, peaceful sleep. Void's older brother would always protect them. Give me a minute. I need water if you can't tell. Alright, and we're back. That was probably longer than a minute, but Chapter 76. CG Mumsa and Dadsa, Little Eret. As per usual, Eret uses all pronouns, but I will be using she, her, hers, and they, them, theirs to refer to Eret. Content warnings include involuntary regression. Arms slid under her knees and around their waist, hoisting them up, their minds suddenly too small to keep her body upright. Eret looked up, her mama peering down at her with love, a smile crossing her features. Are you all right, dear? Mumsa asks gently. Eret nods, a giggle bubbling up and out of her throat, their hands reaching up and grasping her mama's face. They babbled quietly, hands gravitating towards her, Eret's, mouth. Mumsa slipped a pacifier between the little lips. I hate when I find before the little even had a chance to put their fingers in her mouth. The passy bobbed between Eret's lips, snuggling further into their mama's arms. Mama. Eric bubbled up quietly. Yes, Steph? Mumsa asked. Eric giggled and smiled wide. She loved their mama. Da? Eric babbled drowsily. Oh, Dada will be done streaming soon, little one. Then we can read you a bedtime story and get you all tucked in nice and cozy. How does that sound? Mumsa answered, still smile playing across her features. Eric wasn't sure what her mama had all said, but they understood Dad and story, and she was excited. She nodded and kicked their feet gently, not wanting to hurt her mama. Let's go get you through a bath first, Steph. Then we can get you a baba and some comfy PJs, Mumsa murmured to Eric as they walked up the stairs. In the bathroom, Mumsa sat down on the edge of the tub, starting the water, adding in the bubble soap. She made sure that Eric's favorite rubber ducks were added to the bath and had their favorite fluffy towel ready before helping their little undress and helping them into the tub. Eric sat in the tub, babbling quietly as she played with the rubber ducks when Mumsa turned the water off a few minutes later. The little giggled and handed one of her ducks to their mama. Mama needed ducky love too. Mama smiled and thanked her for the duck, carefully placing it back amongst the bubbly water as she grabbed a glass to wet her hair down with. Close your eyes, Dove, Mama gently reminded them. Eric nods and tilts her head back, shutting their eyes. She feels water run down their back and over her face. You did a great job. Eric smiles, babbling small thanks at the praise from their mama. She feels Mama's hands and fingers begin to work soap into their hair, relaxing into the movement and going quiet for a few moments. Her mama turned hands. Disentangling them. It should be untangling, but it's fine. We're just gonna make life harder. Disentangling themselves from their hair. Dove, Dada's here, Mumsa said quietly. She turned back to the little. Dad's waved a bit, and Eric smiled. Da, she called quietly, smile crossing their features. Oh, just a tiny baby tonight, then, Dada commented quietly. Eric shying away a little bit at the observation. Well, that's okay, sweetheart, 'cause Mama and Dada will take care of you. Eric felt her heart pang with a sense of love, an even wider smile crossing their features. Mama picked up her cup, filling it with water and dumping it over the little's hair. Eric quickly closed her eyes, tilting her head back to prevent the soap from getting into their eyes. Mama's fingers brushed through her hair, making sure all the soap was rinsed out. All right, sweetheart, Mama's going to grab you some PJs, or pajamas, while Dada finishes helping you get washed up, Mumsa said as she stood. Phil walked over to the tub, kneeling down beside it and began helping Eric finish washing up. A few minutes later, Eric was done in the bath, only playing in the remaining bubbly water. Eric babbled, handing over a duck to her Dada. Phil took it with a gentle smile and rested it back in the water. Mama returned with some fluffy pages in hand. You ready to get out, Dove? Mama asks. Eric nods, yawning a bit and stretching. Dada grabs her towel and hoists her up, wrapping it around the little and lifting them up into his arms. He set her down on the bathroom counter and began helping the little dry off. Mama helped her into their PJs while Dada prepared her toothbrush. Dada handed them her toothbrush. Eric began to brush her teeth, spitting toothpasted saliva into the sink from time to time. After around 2 minutes, she was done brushing their teeth. She handed their brush over to Mama, and she made grabby hands towards Dada. Dada hoisted her up onto his hip easily. She let out a small smile as he did a little spin, and she rested their head on his shoulder. Dada carried her downstairs and into the kitchen, working on making her up a bottle of Angel's milk and popping it into the microwave for around a minute and a half. The microwave went off a bit later, and Eric was getting ever impossibly sleepier. Her eyes could barely stay open as they rested their head on their Dada's shoulder. Mumsa cooed gently, taking the little from Dadsa and cradling them in her arms. Would you like a story, Dove? She asks gently as she bottle feeds the little. Eric slowly nods, a smile crossing their features. All right, sweetheart, I'm sure Mama and Dada can think of something up. Mumsa carefully climbed the stairs, heading up to the little's room. Dadsa followed right behind her, the two sitting on either side of the little as they popped open a book between them. You ready for the story, Pumpkin? Dadsa asks. Eric nods and yawns, curling into their mom and her Eric nods and yawns, curling into her mama's side. Mama coos gently at her, a smile playing on her lips as Dada begins reading. Once upon a time, there lived a prince in a castle, Dadza began. And the prince was very happy and kind to everyone, Mumsa continued. But one day, Phil interrupted, the prince found out that a dragon had been terrorizing the villagers. So he decided that he had to conquer the dragon in order to save the village, Mumsa answered. He went into the village to ask a few of his friends if they would help him defeat the dragon, Philza continued. His friends agreed and they started making a plan, Mumsa said quietly. The prince and his friends were packed and ready to go 2 days later. They decided to take a longer, stealthier route in order to make sure that the dragon wouldn't know they were coming. On their 4th day of walking, they realized that they would have to start scavenging for food and water as their supplies were running low. 20 minutes later, the story had concluded with a happy ending. Eric was fast asleep, Passy tucked into their mouth, and Crow Stuffy tucked into the crook of her arm. Mumsa and Dadza carefully got up, each placing a kiss to Little's forehead and making sure her star projector was on. Dadza flipped the light switch as he went to leave, both Philza and Mumsa whispering, "Good night, little one, sleep well." They left the room, the little left to dream of puppies and cupcakes. Alright, I think this one's going to end up being the last chapter, because I still gotta go to bed tonight. And it's about, it's going on 12:30 for me. So give me just a minute or two. Alright. So this one is a bit of a longer chapter. Chapter 77, CG Dad's the Little Tommy and Wilbur, Big Technoblade. I'll be using they, them, theirs, and he, him, his for Philza, he, him, his, and she, her, hers for Wilbur, and he, him, his for Tommy, as well as techno when he's mentioned. Content warning is ups a little, forcing off regression, anger towards CG. So the anger towards CG is not really like yelling or anything, it's just kind of like an irritation. So it's not like, I don't believe there's any swear words or anything. I would have mentioned that in the content warning. But it still may be a touchy topic, so feel free to skip to the end now if you'd like. I'll give you just a couple moments, whatever. Alright, Wilbur didn't have a problem with age regression. In fact, she had a little space of his own. She was just scared. He knew that her father supported Tommy in his age regression, but he was scared that since she was older, his regression would be seen as a problem, a hindrance, not a good thing. So, she never told anyone. Tommy sat on the floor playing with Legos, Dadza helping him with building ideas, while Wilbur sat on one end of the couch scrolling through his phone, and Techno sat at the other end of the couch reading his mythology book. Wilbur felt that small feeling enveloping her brain and tugging at his mind as it told her that he just needed to relax. To stop being so uptight, Wilbur ignored these reasonings and instead continued to scroll through her Twitter on his phone. Meanwhile, Dadza kept glancing worriedly at Wilbur. The older looked unhappy and stressed out. They didn't want to bring his concerns up with their sons in the room at the moment, but he also didn't want to see their son so uncomfortable. Dada, Tommy said, pulling at Phil's sleeve. Yeah, Bubs? Phil answered. Will we pay? Tommy asked. Phil just shrugs. I don't know, Bud, but you could go ask him yourself. Tommy nods and toddles over to his big brother, placing a hand on the other's knee. Wilby. Yes, Tommy. Wilbur answers, not looking up from his phone. Will we pay with and Dada? Tommy asks. No, Wilbur snaps. Then she lets out a small breath and collects his nerves. I meant no, not right now. Sorry, Bud. Tommy nods, tears rising to his eyes. His big brother had just snapped at him. He collapsed into his father's embrace, crying into his chest. Wilbur held in her irritation at himself and got up. Walking out of the living room and heading up the stairs, Filza watched worriedly. After his second eldest son inside, they gently rubbed Tommy's back, attempting to offer comfort to the other. Techno looked up, noticing his father's worry. He gently pulled the little out of Dad's lap and offered him a gentle smile. Dadza returned the smile and made his way up out of the living room and up the stairs. Once upstairs, Dadza gently knocked on Wilbur's door. What? Wilbur demanded, voice cracking as she tried to keep his voice even. You alright, mate? Phils asks gently. I'm fine, Wilbur answers, holding back her tears, trying to make it sound like he hadn't just broken down because she snapped at his little brother. Can I come in, kiddo? Phils asks gently. Wilbur feels her aggression slowly creeping over his brain, but forces it back. She couldn't be little, not now, not in front of him. I guess, he answers. Phil opens the door and walks in, sitting down in the desk chair across from her. You want to talk about what happened downstairs? Dadza asks. Wilbur flops down onto his side, stuffed animal clutched in her hands as he contemplates what to tell her father. No, Wilbur answers finally, turning so that his back is facing her father. Okay, but you'll still need to apologize to Tommy, Phils answers. Wilbur nods, more tears pricking his eyes. She stared out the window next to his bed, catching sight of her father's reflection in the window. He sighed. Dad, how do you go about telling someone that you're something that you're scared to tell them? Wilbur asks, out into the empty silence of her room. Well, I guess you would just approach them and tell them what you want to tell them, Dadza answered. Is there something you're scared to tell me? No, Wilbur answers. Yes, he thinks. Phil nods and stands. Well, I'll leave you now then. Let me know when you're ready to talk. Will took a deep breath in, slowly exhaling. It was now or never. Hypothetical situation. What would you do if one of your other children had a little space? Wilbur asks. Treat them how they want to be treated, I guess, Phil answers. Are you trying to tell me something, Will? No, it was just hypothetical. Will answers. Okay, I love you, Bubs, Phil answers. Well, love you too, Dadza, Will answers. Phil smiles and quietly leaves, shutting the door behind themselves. Wilbur curled into a tight ball, waiting until Dadza's footsteps retreat all the way downstairs before letting out the sob caught in his throat. He had messed up. Another knock on her door pulls her loosely out of his thoughts. Come in, he curses her unsteady voice and looks up towards the door's reflection in the window. Techno walks in, shutting the door behind himself. Wilbur quickly sits up, turning towards the other, reaching for him with grabby hands as he sobs out, Techie! Techno quickly embraces the little space-minded male, offering the other comfort and rocking back and forth, the little held tightly in his arms. Oh, sweetheart, I told you Dadza wouldn't mind, Techno says gently, kissing the other's head. Wilbur buries his face into her twin's chest, sobs racking his body. Shh, it's all right, bud. Techie's got you, Techno murmured. Around 15 minutes later, Wilbur had cried herself to sleep, stuffed animal clutched almost as close as his twin. Techno carefully disentangled the little's hand from his shirt and left the room after tucking her in. Is everything all right? Phil asked as Techno returned downstairs, noticing that he looked a little tousled. Yeah, everything's all right, Dad. No need to worry, Techno answered, smiling at the other. Okay, would you mind laying Tommy down for a nap? Phil asks. Gently, I have a hunch about something, but I need to take a quick TRIP to the STORE. And for all of the little-minded males, all of the little-minded peoples out right now, trip to the store. Techno nods. Sure, come on, bud. He carefully picks the little up, carrying the other up the stairs. Phil smiled fondly, watching as their sons head up the stairs. He knew there was a little space store located in town, and they were hoping to pick up a few things for Wilbur. It wasn't a confirmed guess yet, but he thought that Will, indicated by her questions, just might have a little space of his own. He grabbed their keys off the hook by the door and headed out to the car. It was around 15 minutes later when Wilbur awoke, a gentle whine pulling from his throat. Techno sat in a rocking chair in the corner of her room, reading his book. Techno looked up at the quiet whine, a gentle smile crossing his features. "Hey kiddo, have a nice nap?" Techno asks gently. Wilbur nods, thumb gravitating towards his mouth. Techno sighs. Will's adult passies were still on their way in the mail. Gotta love Pages and inability to spell. "Do you want some juice, kiddo?" Techno asks quietly, remembering that they currently have Wilbur's favorite juice in the fridge. Little nods and smiles. "Peas?" she says quietly. Techno nods and smiles. "Of course, kiddo. Thank you for using your manners." He gets up and carefully exits the room, shutting the door behind himself and heading downstairs. Dad's just re-entering the house. "Oh, hi, Dad," Techno says as he walks into the kitchen, noticing his father there, plastic bags in hand. "Do you think you could help me something?" Philza asks quietly. "I suppose it depends on what it is," Techno answers, reaching into the cupboard for a plastic cup. "Well, I have this hunch, but I just need to know if it's a for sure thing, or like a just me thing," Philza says. Techno nods. "Okay, what is it?" "Well, Wilbur has been acting a bit strange today, hasn't he? I mean, snapping at Tommy, and then some of the questions she asked me were just odd. It was almost like he was implying that she has his own little space," Phil says. Techno lets out a slow breath as he opens the refrigerator and grabs Wilbur's favorite juice. He opens the juice and pours some into the cup, only filling the cup about halfway. He sighs. "Wilbur is going to hate me for this, but yes, he has a little space. She was just scared to tell you because he thought that since she's older, you'd see it as a problem." Phil's eyes widen as their brain takes in the information just given to him. Did he actually say that? Techno nods, closing the juice and placing it back in the refrigerator. "You want to take your juice up to him?" "Wait, she's little right now?" Phil asks. "Yeah. After you got done talking with him, she had a whole mental breakdown because he feels so guilty about what she said to Tommy." Techno answers. Phil lets out a slow breath. "Holy crap, sure, I can take this juice up to her if you want. Would you mind helping me put this together?" Phil motions towards the box, leaning against the kitchen doorway. A children's cupboard. That's not how you spell cupboard. Inability is just hilarious sometimes. Pattern in sea animals is shown on the front of the box. "Sure, Dad," Techno answers. Phil smiles and puts their bags down, taking the glass of juice from Techno. He slowly makes their way up the stairs and knocks on Wilbur's bedroom door. Come in," he calls out. Phil enters the room and quietly shuts the door behind himself. "Hey, sweetheart," they say gently, sitting down on the end of the little's bed, handing him her cup of juice. "You know?" he asks quietly, staring down into her cup of juice. "I had a hunch, Bubs. But, and don't be angry, your older brother confirmed it for me," Phil answers. Why would he tell you? He promised he wouldn't." Wilbur cries, tears filling his eyes and running down her cheeks. Phil shifts, sitting down beside Wilbur. Philza shifts down beside Wilbur, wrapping an arm around his shoulder. "Bubba, it's not your older brother's fault. I had a guess after our conversation earlier, and your brother confirmed that for me." Philza reassures the younger. "Your little space is still valid. It doesn't matter how old or your big age is. What matters is that you're happy and you have a safe coping mechanism." Wilbur sniffles and snuggles her face into her father's neck. "Love you, Papa." "I love you too, sweetheart," Philza answers, tucking the blanket more firmly around the little, setting the other's cup on the nightstand. "To sleep well, Bubs." Small snores reverberated throughout the room as Phil sat for a bit longer. Making sure that he didn't wake the little once they got up, he made their way back down the stairs. About 5 minutes later, he found Techno in the kitchen, almost done with the cupboard. He knelt down by their eldest son. "How's it looking, kiddo?" Phil asks. It's going all right," Techno answers, sitting back and looking at his handiwork, the cupboard now completed. "Looks good, Tech. Philza answers. He gets up, moving over to the bags on the table, slowly pulling items out of the bags. Alright, I'm gonna wash this stuff up. Could you bring the cupboard up to Will's room? Sure, Dad, Takano answers, grabbing the cupboard and carrying it up to Will's room. He slid back the closet door and moved a few things to the side, placing the cupboard in the now empty space. Meanwhile, Phil was downstairs, washing up the sippy cups, bottles, teethers, and pacifiers he'd picked up for Wilbur. They hummed as he washed them, quickly finishing up what he was doing and drying each and every item with a dish towel. They carried everything upstairs, quietly walking to the Little's bedroom. Here, Tech, Philza said, handing off the sippy cups to the other. Takano took them, slipping them into the first cupboard space on the far right, and closed the door and turned back to Philza. Phil then handed Takano the bottles and pacifiers, the other taking them and placing them in the little cupboard space on the top shelf. I'll be right back. I also picked up a couple of coloring books and some crayons. They're downstairs, yeah, if you want to go grab them, Phil says, placing the teethers into the cupboard with the sippy cups. Anyways, so that's the end of the story for today. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. And I hope you have a fantabulous day or night. To all my tiny tots, little ones, big kids, tweens, teens, everyone in between, CGs, flips, and adults. Bye!